The United States Border Patrol has exciting and rewarding career opportunities with the nation's largest law enforcement organization.
Border Patrol agents enjoy great pay, outstanding federal benefits, and up to $20,000 in recruitment incentives.
If you are looking for a way to serve something greater than yourself, consider the United States Border Patrol. Learn more online at cbp.gov/careers/USBP.
That's cbp.gov/careers/USBP.
Hello and welcome to this. It is the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. I am JB here, sat in the rugby dungeon next to Loyal Phil. How are you, Loyal Phil?
Hello, JB.
And down the line, treacherous Tim in his shipping container, living the life of what? A Russian tycoon on expenses.
If only. At least you were open enough to actually say treacherous, Tim. I thought you were just going to leave the subtle, veiled implication.
Yes, exactly.
Treacherous.
Yeah, sometimes you let the listeners come to their own conclusion, shouldn't you?
Well, as I always like to say, there are two types of people in this world. Those who can extrapolate from incomplete data.
Very good. Very Phil.
Very
good,
Phil.
Very Phil. Go on. Excellent
I think we're
stuff.
done here. Let's
go home.
Great dad joke. I love it. I just want to say at the very start of this, welcome back to the Grassroots Podcasters. Welcome back.
They're all flooding back, aren't they? They're so into the World Cup.
They love rugby so much they haven't touched it for the last 4 months.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, there's quite a lot to talk about this week. So I'm not surprised that they're back because it all went off. Some really interesting stuff.
So let me just say, a sincere welcome back, and also just like Loyal Phil is always right there as JB's lapdog next to him for the podcast.
My King Charles Spaniel.
We are there for you as your loyal rugby servants, 52 weeks of the year, for very nearly 10 years. And if you appreciate that fact, you can hit subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You can get more, and quite often spicy content, patreon.com/EggChasers, and you can tell a mate. So there we go. Anyway.
There we go indeed.
Oh, and you can get in touch at contact@eggchasers@gmail.com.
Yes. So, do you want to start with the CrossFit Games and which event do you want to talk about, boys?
Well, I was going to just say, Tim, you made a proposal on our EggChasers WhatsApp chat that I think is a good one, which is we will discuss the games tonight, which will obviously be our podcast for Monday morning for everyone's listening pleasure. And then we'll probably reconvene tomorrow night because the England squad is being announced tomorrow. So we should dissect that in full fresh when it comes out. So there'll be probably a second pod early Tuesday morning or late Monday night for you.
Do we have anyone on the ground doing the England announcement? Are you going, Phil?
I'm not going, unfortunately.
I'm not going. Anyone?
I might be at Twickenham tomorrow morning.
Where
they are, by the way. What I can tell you, and I've got selection dilemmas of my own to make, just like Steve Borthwick, is I'm going to have to decide what to have for breakfast and lunch because, I mean, we keep hearing Twickenham and RFE's got no money. They're laying on breakfast from 8:30 for all the journalists.
Wow.
And assembled people, and then it's going on till like 1 o'clock. Lunch comes out. I don't know what they're expecting us to do. Between 8:30 and 2 p.m.
So hang on. When does the squad get announced as such?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. So I imagine, right, this is how I seem to remember the last World Cup squad going, is they do some sort of announcement, and then they have like loads of fans and sponsorship stuff going on. And I think the journalists do some writing or something, like you just get shooed off, and then you file some copy, and then you come back about 1 o'clock, wouldn't you? Whilst the fans do all their stuff.
There'll probably be some good opportunity to interview the players.
Yep.
Presumably all the players who don't make the cut will have to pack their bags up in that intervening window.
Oh,
so
I hope they all have to have their bags. Do you like on Apprentice?
Tim, you could help someone. You could maybe help Henry Slade or David Ribbons or Joe Thockenasinger, someone like that. Pack their bags up. Give them a lift to the taxi.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Just have, yeah. I'm big into this. They should make it into a real big event, sending the players home.
They should get, the cafe in The Apprentice, the most depressing cafe in the world.
Yes.
They should send all the players who don't make it.
Where did we go wrong? And just the recriminations. I had to play with you. If your service was better, I would have made that. Why did you miss your line-out throws, pal?
But that's in The Apprentice. That's to kind of decide who gets fired. They should do that to decide who has to go and play. I was going to say sort of, like, trying to make a joke, like play for Newcastle, but that's not very fair.
No, Wasps. Go play for Wasps.
Wasps, yeah.
Zebra.
Go play for Wasps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But anyway, we'll have lots to talk about them. But like you say, JB, let's as we're doing too. Let's just crack on with the rugby.
Yeah, sure. So, let's go with the one which I think our listeners most care about because of our demographic and whatnot. England Wales. I think we learned a lot. Well, did we learn a lot? There was certainly a lot of surprises. It didn't go the way I expected it to go.
Now, full disclosure on this, it is my wife's birthday today.
Okay.
You're very lucky to have me here on her special day.
Isn't that right?
I've seen the first 30 minutes of England Wales. I've not seen anything else other than the highlights. So
okay, well, why don't you assess that then, Phil? Just let's put our England caps on for a minute because there's lots to talk about positive for Wales, which we will in a bit. But that first 30 minutes, I'd be very interested to know what your takeaways were and what you saw.
So I'll be interested to see because I got a few takeaways and then be interested to see if these continued or they changed. So England in that first 30 minutes, they won. They got 2 penalties, which they won from scrums. But they both seem like kind of lotteries to me. I wasn't convinced that they were dominant England scrums in any way, shape, or form.
Agree with that.
England did a bit of box kicking and tried to run it a few times with ball in hand and couldn't get past maybe 2 phases on any occasion. No. And their defence, they looked incredibly vulnerable to the ball back inside off Costello and Davis.
Yep.
They're probably all of the points that I wanted to make. Like, no one... Thoknessinger did not do anything positive in that first 30 minutes.
I thought, when you mentioned that, I thought he was one of the more effective carriers.
So he carried once and just had the ball knocked out of his hand straight away. He looked very shaky under the high ball. And for what should have been the Reece Zammit try, were it not for a kind of Blamire tap tackle, he misread the inside ball, and then he was the one who got caught short. He should have pushed across, so he left a bit of a hole there.
Hang on, the Reece Zammit try?
Reece Zammit, what should have been a Reece Zammit try, where he breaks the line on the inside from the line-out move.
Yeah.
That was a Thoknessinger. So he was 3 clear mistakes there. But I didn't see any more. He might have carried well after that. But in the first 30 minutes...
So I thought he carried well. And, yes, he made some mistakes. But England just seems so toothless. I think that any danger they can get from any position right now is a bonus. I thought Marchant showed elements of his class, but not the full range of skills he has. Maybe because of what was happening inside of him.
Didn't really see any in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, I can't really think of it. Can you think of anything more positive?
If we talk about those points, first point I made, I guess, scrum. They won 2 scrum penalties, which seemed like a lottery. Did that continue winning scrum penalties, or was it just a lottery and it was the first 2 in England's favour?
No, Wales started then taking scrum penalties off England.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
were they genuine, or were they 50-50 ones?
Yeah, like a prop slips on his knee, and it's like a technical penalty.
Yeah.
No, they look fairly dominant.
There was a magic 8-ball feel about the scrums.
But, happens. I like two very new, well, not very new, completely new props.
Debutant.
Yeah, 2
on debut.
That's incredible, isn't it? Sending 2 debutant props out.
And then you lose your hooker after 4 minutes, 5 minutes?
Yeah. It's... I'm still... The more I think about this game, the more I'm in shock at what I saw from Wales. I really am. England, on their attack, you're absolutely right. 2 phases weren't particularly good. Going sideways as well. Wasn't sharp.
Didn't get past 2 phases from what I saw. I'm not even sure if they did get past 2 phases in that first 30 minutes.
Go on, Tim. You pitch in with a few bits and pieces of your positives or your analysis of England.
Yeah, well, not hugely positive. I think 2 facts about England linking this game to previous games, is they have scored 3 and conceded 11 in their last 3 matches.
Wow. I heard.
Scored 3 as in tries. Scored 3 tries, conceded
Yes.
11.
So,
Wow.
so just kind of
That's
saying,
bad.
yeah, I know.
Not
So on
good, is
both
it?
counts, so you can't separate one from the other. So saying Joe Thokinasinger carried well, so you should focus on that. And don't worry about the defensive mistakes. Phil's right. England looked fragile defensively. That was probably the biggest concern because for whatever reason, the individual errors were off the charts. There's something like 20 odd drop balls, a lot of them unforced, and it just looked like there was no cohesion between these players who've allegedly been in camp together for the last month.
Yeah. So.
Which is odd. But I expect very few, if any, of those players to be playing in a starting 15 against Argentina. So I'm not overly concerned about that. But the defensive part is the sort of thing you think whoever's on the field, it's so simple to get systems and structures in place for that. It's the foundation that is what concerned me, which is why when Joe Thokinasinger kind of looks really exposed defensively, I go, no, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah, because that is... It's one of the things that Gatland, regardless of who he's playing, regardless of what kids he throws in or experienced players he throws in, he always seems to have that basis of defence.
Yeah.
Like that is the foundation that you build everything up
This
from.
is what I wanted to talk about. And let's see if you can flip it around and sort of use the reverse logic on England. I thought what Wales did masterfully, like it was so good, was they managed to shape the game into a game where they could execute their strengths. So if you're young and fit and hungry for a World Cup spot, the very least you can do is work hard, and put in a big defensive shift. That's simply the easiest thing for a professional rugby player to do. A motivated professional rugby player wants to be put in a situation where all he needs to do is get off his feet and hit things which are in front of him.
Work hard.
Yeah, we just work. If you just give them the opportunity to work hard, they'll work their little socks off. So I think Wales did a great job of just making sure that their players could work hard and putting them in a position to succeed.
Classic Gatland team.
Yeah. Now, does that mean... I don't know what this means for England. Does this mean that they were inefficient at moving the Welsh defence, exposing the holes in pretty much a brand new young team, an inexperienced team? Probably. Or did they not shape the game themselves? Did they not put their own players in a situation where they could win?
Probably a bit of both. And if that just failure to retain the ball for more than a few phases continued, you can't shape anything. You shape... But on the point, and I've not seen this in real time and how it played out, but I've seen the George North try.
Oh my God!
And England,
what is that? The defence?
What is that?
Like,
yeah, Cocker, can you explain to me? Because I've not seen the phases that built up to that try.
I watched it 3 times. I still can't tell you.
How did England? How were they so threadbare? 10 yards out from a ruck on their own try line.
There was no one inside of Van Portfleet. Van Portfleet goes to make it. It was legitimately like a level 7 miscommunication. I mean, it was worse than that.
On that, if we were playing for a level 7 team,
we'd be subbed.
Yeah, well, but if you down to probably level 8, level 9, you would know if you're on your own line and you're short of numbers and the opposition have the ball. What do you do as a defender?
You get your. So you've got to fill in around the ruck. You've got to make it difficult so they can go round you, but they can't go through you. And you've got to get off your line.
Exactly.
So
you get off the line and hit someone. Don't worry about drifting. Don't worry about the spaces out wide, because
I would say
you're on your own line. You just hit something.
I would say best to be safe than sorry. Take a few seconds, slow it down a few seconds, and think about the very complex system that your coach instructed you to utilise at that very time. And then ask your friend if he's going to do it too, and then move.
Yeah, I think you can't separate again in that case. England's defence was a concern for me, but Wales in the phases leading up to that, there was speed in their ball, there was runners hard, there was deception, there was people cutting different angles.
It's just hard work, really, wasn't it? I mean, all those things like speed of ball, ruck speed, just get there quickly, clear out quickly, get your fundamentals really nailed on. I was amazed by Wales. When that team came out, my actual words were, "Who are these people?" I don't know who they are. Who are these props? What do they do? Costello. All I know about him is that he used to be very highly rated at Leicester Tigers and then went back to Wales. That's all I know about him. I know nothing more than that. And here he is going up against the future King Marcus Smith and doing very well.
And yeah, from what I saw, he He looked good because he was in the handful of times that I saw him with the ball in the first 30 minutes, and then from the highlights later on, he was exploiting the weaknesses of England's defence.
Yeah.
You can't ask more than that.
So the reason I think this is a complete disaster for England, complete disaster, and I mean that, I mean, it doesn't affect the starting team. Tim is completely right about that, but what is the best scenario that you get out of this game? The best scenario you get out of this game is a buoyant camp and the feeling that you've got players underneath you who want your jersey and are pushing you harder. Mm-hmm. And I think the overwhelming thought that we come away with now, when we look at the England team as well, it doesn't matter too much because we've got better players to come in. And that is not where you want to be. You want to be in a situation where, like, oh Christ, some big name is going to lose his shirt here because these kids want it more.
I agree with that. I think this is not good for it. It's England have always been in a tough position. Let me rephrase that. Borthwick has always been in a tough position, getting appointed with 8 months to go before a World Cup. He's kind of been let down by the RFU there.
Well, the RFU's got a long history of letting down everyone.
Yeah.
So Borthwick won't be the first and he won't be the last.
Yeah, but his reputation is being... He came in with an excellent reputation, and in less than 8 months it has been destroyed.
Well, here's something which is
fundamentally damaged.
Here's something which is genuine concern for England players and for Borthwick, and this does not reflect well on him at all. 2 critical lineouts lost in scoring positions. Now, that is what they need to nail. Like, their game will be based on pressure, and you can see that with the box kicking. Okay, fine. They didn't have the best day, but that's what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And the second part of that pressure is to win your set piece, and he is the lineout genius. So for those lineouts to go wrong, it's not acceptable. I mean, that is
I don't think you can put that on a coach.
Where else
I don't understand how you can put that on a coach.
That's his job, right? If you're...
No. It's not his job to execute. It's the player's job to execute. And it wasn't that Steve Borthwick's line-out system was poor and therefore the players messed it up. It was that those players messed it up.
Well, the way I look at it is that you're a coaching team. And the art of coaching, for a lot of people, is not exactly what you're going to do, but what you leave out. So you look at England's attack, it wasn't great. And you might say, well, it's not great because they're working on other things. Steve Borthwick's whole game plan, or a lot of it, is based around winning great set-piece. Leicester Tigers were one of the, if not the best team in the Premiership at scoring points following lineouts. So I see what you're saying. The players have to execute it. But if I'm Steve Borthwick, that's the number one thing. The number one thing I'm making sure that they get right. And if they're not getting that right, I mean, I don't know what they look like in training, but if anyone made a misstep on the way to that game, they couldn't play. That would be my thought.
Yeah, I guess you can't replicate what it's like in a game, and you can't learn about players until you're in it. So,
test match animals.
Exactly. Yeah. Jamie Blameyer and Theo Dan both ballsed up line-out throws. There was one where the ball got thrown over Lewis Ludlam, and it wasn't Lewis Ludlam's fault. The person lifting him from behind just wasn't there. Yeah, and
who, in my mind, who is responsible for preparing the players that they know? I mean, the player needs to know that he knows and needs to learn. Learn his job. But on the other hand,
I guess what we can say is the issues were basic: defense, shape, general cohesion, like not looking like you've know what lines each other are running, and dropping the ball, basic handling, execution of set piece. I mean, that's a concern that it was fairly basic. Equally, and if I'm trying to put a positive spin on it, that means I know these players are better than that. I'm concerned that they didn't deliver it. I know that they're better than that, and therefore a lot of the issues are relatively easy to solve.
I think this is going to be a controversial statement now, right? But I genuinely think this. If you swap the shirts of those players and put them in different camps, the red team would still win.
Yeah, as in... So the players swap over, and Gatland has
the England 15 for the same amount of time, and then Borthwick has the Welsh. I just think the England players on display were probably man-for-man superior.
Yeah, I probably agree that they were man-for-man superior. The one difference is there is not an enormous amount, but there's a chunk of those players who have played with Gatland for 10 years.
That is true.
Like Halfpenny North, Bigger who came on, Gareth Davis, Morgan and Wainwright have been with him before.
Well, Wainwright was like the next great coming.
He was, yeah, and he looked look good from what I saw in this game.
But let me pick up on what JB just said by introducing an email from Max Armstrong to
Here we go.
EggChasers@gmail.com. He says, "Gentlemen, tucking into a bottle of wine and dissecting today's game." You probably drag that back with a funnel, I reckon. Who would you rather be going to the World Cup? Borthwick with a bunch of proven winners, Lions indeed with big reputations and big expectations, who are playing like they've never met each other, or Gatland with a bunch of raw, talented young tyros with nothing to lose?
Gatland.
Gatland.
Based on this, Gatland, I think he knows exactly what he's doing. In fact, I'm not even sure it would work. You know what I said then about like the experienced players? I'm not sure it would work giving him all the experienced players. I think the fact that, I mean, this is the talent of Gatland.
It's the work around. It's if you know those players inside out, and it's only a handful of them. It's maybe half a dozen in that 23 that Gatland knows inside out.
Yeah.
But if you know them inside out and they know your systems inside out, they lay the foundations. Whereas, I mean, everyone has worked, or most of these players have worked with Borthwick in some capacity.
Yeah,
he was England coach under Eddie Jones for a period of time, although one would assume he does things differently. And then he's been Leicester Tigers coach, and he's been at Saracens before that.
Yep.
So he's not totally new, but they've never played under, or very few of these have played under him in the same way that half a dozen or so have played under Gatland.
Yeah, I'm certain Borthwick will come good. I'm certain that he's the right guy for the job.
Well,
just 8 months isn't enough.
My worry is, had he been appointed after this World Cup or after the last World Cup, maybe after Japan was too soon, but had he been appointed after this World Cup and he had a 4-year run, I still believe he's the kind of guy who could do something really special with any group of players.
Agreed.
In that period. He might not get the chance.
I know.
He might not make it to after this. He might not make it past this World Cup, which would be
some people
a
are saying
shame.
Eddie Jones Mark II, but there's a danger of it being Stuart Lancaster Mark II.
Yeah,
Yeah,
completely agree. And it'd be awful. Particularly bearing in mind how much this whole escapade cost the RFU. Let's not forget that. So they better be in this for the long term.
Well, yeah, the appointment. So firing Eddie Jones, buying out the Borthwick, or paying off the Borthwick and Aled Walters and Kevin Sinfield contracts.
Yep.
It's 7 figures in terms of those numbers there. It's £1 million plus gamble.
It's a huge amount of money.
Enormous.
It's a huge amount of money for a union with no money.
With no money.
And going to have less money.
Less money after paying for Tim's breakfast and lunch tomorrow.
Oh, crikey, Tim, you are really rinsing rugby. And I think there's also more of a cultural issue with English rugby. Let me know what you think about this, but it felt that those Welsh players who were given their debut were there to prove that they could make a World Cup. And I think some of the England players that were on that field, who were on the fringes, were there to prove that they couldn't make a World Cup. They were sort of given the chance to fail their way out.
To hang themselves.
Yeah.
Here's the noose. Here's the rope. You make the noose in the next 80 minutes.
Here's linking what you're saying with what you've just said. I think there might be an element of truth in this. Any organisation, sports team, business or whatever, ends up resembling the person in charge.
Yes.
They take on, an organisation or a team or whatever takes on the characteristics of the person at the top. And I think the difference, Borthwick is an exceptional coach. He's going to be, I agree with you, he's the right man. It may be the wrong timing, but what he doesn't have is experience. And just in the sense of the players, you just sort of got the sense with Wales, exactly like you're talking about with their young guys, they had a freedom which comes from having a coach who's been there, done it, round the block, and will just in subconscious ways, not even verbally, stuff that Warren Gatland says, but just in the way he carries himself, because he's been there, done it many, many times, they will just have got a sense of freedom. Whereas this is as new for Steve Borthwick as it is for many of his players.
Yeah, that's exactly right, isn't it? That's exactly right. I think what you're saying, Tim, really showed up in the second half when Wales start offloading the ball, like young guys, just throwing it around with a lot more freedom than the English boys, and that isn't a system thing. That's just playing good rugby. Once you feel that you've got the upper hand, that's all that is.
And I think there was one moment that captured that the most was England were 11 points down. The final score was what the scoreline was at the time. George Ford was on, and you'd have thought George Ford would have been. He's a very smart guy, reads a game, can change a game. He'll have been watching what's going on. He's in the middle of the park, I think, just inside the Welsh half, gets the ball, has time, and puts up a box kick.
Yep. Yep.
I was like, you're 11 points down and there's 10 minutes to go. What are you doing?
But that's how they play. I mean, I think when England master what they want to do, if they ever do it, if they ever master it, right? I think the version of England that you're going to see is a little bit like South Africa, where they smash it up in the air, they go and contest, rip off huge chunks of yardage, and then you play in a few phases or a shape or some such thing. Sort of Leicester Tigers, like kick, make sure you're in the position, rip off a chunk of yards, and then play. I think that's what they probably want to do. But if it's a difficult one, because if you're on that end of an absolute hiding against a bunch of kids in the Millennium Stadium, and you're a fan and you're watching this, the last thing you want is to see the box kick. You don't want to see the execution of a game plan that's failed you for 60 minutes, and now you're going to finish off the game with the same.
With the same when you've got to score tries.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different one. You need to score tries. On the other hand, maybe it was kind of right to carry on trying to execute the game plan because this is a warm-up game.
I think your point is a brilliant one about so brilliant. I've just completely brain farted what I was going to say.
Such an amazing point.
What? Let's just leave it there. I'm making amazing points today.
You make lots.
let's just
you consistently make amazing points.
Yes, astonishing.
Here's a point that I'm not sure is right, but I just want to discuss it anyway. JB mentioned, we were just chatting before the pod, and JB mentioned how amazing it was to see all these debutants and youngsters in the Wales squad just be given a chance. And look at what can happen when players are given a chance. And I said, I agree on the Wales side. England have given a load of players a chance. There's a load of players who aren't first choice, some of whom have played before, some of whom have never played, some of whom have played 1 or 2 games, who have been given a chance. And they didn't look amazing. And then there's a question for me, and I've probably not fully fleshed this out, but Wales, the first question they ask is he a good player? Because I'll explain this in a second. First question they ask is he a good player? Wainwright, is he a good player? Jack Morgan, is he a good player? Costello, is he a good player? Whereas England, the first question they seem to ask is, does he look the part? Does he fit? So Ribbons, is he 6'7" and 19 stone? Yes, therefore that's the question to get him through the door rather than is he a good player. Thokana Singer, he's 6'4", 110 kg, can unproven do a sub-11 second 100 metres. The attributes are the thing that gets them through the door.
There is
something... And it's only after that they determine whether they're a good player. Whereas Wales, Wainwright is not big enough to be an international number 8.
No.
But he's good enough to play international back row, therefore he gets the opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas England, the question is the wrong way round. It's do they look the part? Like Marchant looks absolutely, and Marchant is a very, very good player. It's maybe a bad thing, but he looks like he's going to be an international 13-year-old. He just looks amazing.
He does.
And he's a bad example because he is actually a very, very good player. Thokana Singer's a better one.
Yeah.
He looks amazing.
Yeah.
He is huge, he's rapid, but he's perhaps not good enough.
Sam Burgess is probably your best example.
Sam Burgess is a great example.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm glad you mentioned this because you're not the first person to recognise this. But the last time I heard this brought up, and I can't remember the exact quote, but I loved it, and it was to do with Eddie Jones. And it was like, do you pick the big player and make him work hard, or do you get the hard-working player and make him big? And the Eddie Jones thing was, because he was a small, hard-working hawker, he always went for hard-working lads and made them big, which, doesn't exactly chime with your point.
It's kind of the opposite.
It is the opposite. But that mindset is very much, those questions are very much at the forefront of the England team, because they continuously ask things like, well, it's like the ball carrier thing, or can you afford to have a small number 8 only if you have two giant locks? Yeah, because you're looking at attributes before you're looking at how good players are.
Look at the players that have been cut from the squad. So Zach Mercer, Alex Mitchell, Tommy Freeman, these are guys that have supreme rugby brains and are maybe some of the most natural in terms of rugby intellect and intelligence out on the field, decision making, top 2 inches, they're right up there.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But they're good examples of my point because all of them are a bit unorthodox.
Yeah.
Like Zach Mercer and Alex Mitchell in particular, they do not look precisely how you would want them to look. But they are very, very good rugby players and very good rugby brains.
Well, your exact point, and this is not a contradiction of your point, your exact point is made in Moneyball. When they talk,
I'm actually thinking of Moneyball.
Yeah. So a jean salesman. You're not selling jeans.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was thinking quite strongly of Moneyball. Like the coaches, the selectors, scouts, even they look at the perception
he's
of the
a
players.
Typical second row, 6'7", 19 stone, and
Yeah. They look at the aesthetics rather than the results, and obviously you can't be a tight head prop and be 95 kg.
No,
you can't be an international. You can maybe at level 7. You can't internationally, but so there are certain criteria that you have to meet. But I almost feel like England have gone too far that way.
Yeah, well, I wonder how much you can put, not blame, I suppose, but these private schools are churning out boys who are the model of the position that they should play.
With the exception of front rows.
Who are you thinking of there?
Well, just England.
Oh, as in where they get their front rows from?
Yeah, England struggle to get tight head props.
Well, they had one playing for Wales. And actually, the way he played second half, I'm pretty sure they're not going to miss Henry Thomas. He didn't have a great debut for Wales.
Yeah, so I'm not fully fleshed out, but I think there's certainly some correlation with some of the positions that played there today, on both sides actually, both the England and the Wales side.
Yeah. Excellent.
I am going to draw back from the precipice a little bit. I remembered the point I was going to make is I think it was a brilliant point to say it's not a great place to be when you don't trust your backup players. Nevertheless, and you are right on that, nevertheless, the quality of players that can come in for the let's remember all England need to. Well, no, I say all.
I can't wait.
I'm not going to say all.
Say it.
England in this World Cup need to beat Argentina game 1, and probably if they play to anything like their potential, whoever they pick in the remaining 4 pool games, they will win and finish top of the pool.
Didn't Japan lose again this weekend?
They did.
Yes, so they I don't want to disrespect the other teams in the pool. And
go on, do it, Tim. Do it.
The first game against Argentina, if they manage to win that, then the next game that's really a stretch of they might not win this if they play anywhere near what they're capable of is the quarter final.
Yeah,
and they're going to be playing Wales or Australia, possibly Fiji. In which case, I mean, you could not ask for a better World Cup. So I'm going to pull back from the precipice because the 15 that they can bring in are excellent players. And really, to get to a World Cup semi-final, they've got to win 2 games that feel like a lottery.
So, interesting.
And Scotland have got to win 2 games that are very much not a lottery. In Ireland and South Africa to get out of a pool, not get to a semi-final.
Yeah, that are stacked against them. Just on the Japan point, Japan did lose to Fiji, lost quite handily, 35-12. They did have Labuschagne or Labuschagne. I've heard
Labuschagne, is it?
Well,
Labuschagne is how the Aussie cricketer is pronounced.
Labuschagne
is how they do it with the rugby player, I believe.
Is it Labuschagne, really?
Yeah, that's how I've heard it. Anyway, he was red carded after 7 minutes.
Brilliant.
But Japan have not been good in this, is it Pacific Nations Cup?
Yeah, who's coaching them? Jamie Joseph.
Yeah. But they've just not looked great. So well,
let's hope they return to form for the World Cup, shall we? Fingers crossed for.
Maybe Jamie Joseph is saying, "Judge me on the World Cup, mate."
Exactly right.
Which might be Steve Borthwick might be saying that as well. There might be a lot of coaches covering. Eddie Jones is
definitely saying, "Judge me on the World Cup, mate."
I don't want it to be hubris. I respect the teams that are there. I also think England have got an unbelievably good chance, maybe even more than 50-50. No, not more than 50-50. That's not what I mean. They've got a 50-50 chance of being in a World Cup semi-final. Yeah, I will take that all day long.
I agree with that. They've got a very good chance of they can still mess it up, but they have got a very good chance. This is as good a draw as you could possibly hope for as an Englishman.
Yeah, I would quite like to see England go in the group stages, and then the RFU and the council being burnt inside a massive wicker man.
I don't mind the latter point.
Yeah, let's
I'd like to make it interesting, but the latter point, I'm okay with.
Hey,
Yes, of course.
Goes without saying.
There'll be someone on Twitter that's going to cancel you, JB. I've got you back.
I'm not on Twitter. I can do what I want though. Yeah, look, I'll give you a World Cup final if you can throw them all into a giant wicker man. Metaphorically.
Exactly.
Let's just throw a bit of praise on Wales for their second half performance. Jack Morgan, you've already mentioned, and Aaron Wainwright were absolutely exceptional.
If this was
great,
if this was a bigger game, because it's only a warm up game, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. And maybe this time next week we're talking about how great England are because they've got to play Wales again in Twickenham. But if it is a bigger game, that clip of Tom Pearson running into Jack Morgan would have been iconic.
Which one's that?
Oh, it would.
For the tackle.
Oh, that tackle
Yeah.
for what was the Gareth Davies try? Or was
No, Tom Pearson just got monstered.
Yeah, Tom Pearson
he ran it in ever so slightly too upright against Jack Morgan, who just mullered him.
So I've not seen that.
And it's textbook. It was just a textbook, because Tom Pearson's such a massive man, such a powerful man.
Yeah, and he's such an awkward runner as well.
He drives, he's too high, and he drives Morgan back about 2 yards, but Morgan's in textbook shape.
Awesome.
And then he absorbs that momentum, the momentum stops, and then it shifts, and then he's picking him up and driving him back. And it's not a huge collision, but it's a great tackle.
Oh, I will look that up.
It was good. Jack Morgan as a leader, as a youngster, he looks awesome. He looked awesome in that game. Aaron Wainwright as well is a legitimate option for Wales at 8.
It's great, isn't it? It's great to see. After all that doom and gloom, I thought Wales were going to get smashed, and all hail the king, Gatland.
Gatland's back.
Gatland is back. So.
Dan Bigger's got a lovely French tan. Lewis Rees-Zammit too. I like his 90s curtain hair.
It's great,
Gareth
isn't it?
Davis had to play well with that abomination of a haircut.
Lee Halfpenny looking as handsome as he's ever looked.
I did think that. You know,
My word.
You know when he took that first penalty and they panned to his family in the box?
Yeah.
Or they were drinking Aperol Spritz, I think.
Something like that.
I did think, God, he's still looking good, isn't he?
He looks great.
He's in good shape, narrow waist, big chest, big arms, big shoulders, and just those boy band good looks, soft doe-eyed, long eyelashes. Oh,
he doesn't have that washed out look that a late Ben Foden had. Yeah, he looks great. What's the last thing I was going to say about him? Yeah, so I just wanted to cast you.
Oh no, don't worry. I was going to say something about videos online, but let's not go there.
I just wanted to cast your mind back to the last World Cup. Liam Williams gets injured, and Lee Halfpenny comes in, and the world is losing its mind because Liam Williams at that time is the boy.
Yeah,
and they're all talking about, God, if Liam Williams can't play this, that, and the other. And I remember putting up a tweet with all of the accolades that Halfpenny had won.
Yeah,
how many points he scored, how many tests he's been, he's played. 100. The fact he's been on three Lions tours.
The fact that a couple of years earlier he was just about the most expensive player in the world when he moved to Toulon.
Yeah. And he's already done all that. And at that point, people are like, yeah, but he's past it now. He's on the decline.
That's 4 years ago.
And yeah, he's about to go to another World Cup, judging by this performance. And judging by this, I mean, if he can play as well as he does, because he doesn't rely on out-and-out speed. He doesn't rely on physicality.
He's always been incredibly brave,
defensively
and under the high ball.
Some might say too brave.
Yes.
Yeah, significantly too brave sometimes. But there's no reason he doesn't go on for a couple more years. He's looking great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Lee Halfpenny chat. Do you want to talk
about the other games before we go?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually did watch pretty much the entirety of Scotland-France.
I love that game.
Albeit I watched it with sound off.
So, I've got an admission to make. I watched the first half and then smugly turned off my TV saying, this is over.
Oh, JB.
And then I had to go back and watch the highlights.
Second half was great. First half
was great.
First half was really interesting. I found it really interesting because I thought Scotland looked dangerous, but they tried to make themselves look dangerous in totally the wrong part of the field. They were playing like big runners and offloading games just outside their 22, which is great, but you play 3 phases and you lose the ball in the third phase, and France are going to punish you.
Yeah,
and they did. And it was the right rugby in the wrong part of the field in that first half. And in the second half, obviously after Xander Ferguson goes off for the red card, well, the yellow card that got converted into a red card, they just stepped up and they kind of had to. And you could say that the French team is young, inexperienced, second string, but Scotland finished that game really well with a huge amount of physicality, a huge amount of effort, and a lot of defence. And at the end, the Rory Darge turnover to win the game was absolutely superb. I loved that second half.
It's brilliant. That Scotland are not going to miss Stuart Hogg one bit if player Kinghorn plays like that.
No, not at all. Kinghorn's a serious player. He's excellent, and he's so big as well. Like, they've got some serious beef in that back line. Tuipulotu, Van der Merwe, and Kinghorn.
Hugh Jones is not small.
No,
he's a powerful man.
Darcy Graham
is small. Legitimately small.
Finn Russell is deceptively physical as well. He's deceptively strong.
Well, when you say deceptively, is that because he looks so unphysical?
Well, but he's actually very strong.
Yeah, I mean, he does. Yeah, I guess he is a professional athlete. People do forget it's just because he doesn't look like one.
But he is very, very strong. So I loved it, and I actually think this is the best result for both teams, which is a weird thing to say, because France, they got some really good stuff out of that back line early on.
And Pierre Barret, who were eligible for the under-20s, and
is ace.
Imagine how good the under-20s team, how much more they would have steamrolled if they had those two players in their back line.
Now, Pierre Barret, because I was watching this with sound off, I was absolutely certain that was Gabriel Villiers. Like, I was.
Oh, is that who he reminds you of?
Well, the red scrum cap
with the scrum cap and the way he runs. You're so right.
Do you know the way he runs is? It was only when I rewatched the highlights today. So I watched the whole game, and I was like, God, Villiers is playing well. God, he's looking good.
Do you know who he reminds me of, this Billy Beret, or whatever however you say his name? Italian fullback.
Oh, he looks like, facially, he does look like, what's his name? Capuozzo.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way that they're so skinny and elusive.
Oh, he is identical to Villiers.
Do you know what I like about him is just his willingness to challenge the line. So sometimes, do you know when you become a little bit jaded by rugby, or you know what the right decision is? You know, on percentage. So you're looking at a situation, you go, yeah, percentage-wise, I should pass this 60-40.
Yeah.
He will take the 40, and because he's confident that he can execute it, and he does.
Himself.
That Quiyu try, the first try, with Gaeton making the break, at such speed, the pass to Biel Barret, and then his pass inside, it was just...
Well,
it was gorgeous.
Biel Barret leaves Hugh Jones in his wake for that. He accelerates as how do you pronounce him? Gaeton. Gaeton. As he's getting smashed, and he was smashed by Van der Merwe, but gets the offload inside. Hugh Jones is left for dead by Barret, Biel Barret, which was awesome. But yeah, what I was going to say was I think this is actually the best result for both teams, because Scotland got there were a lot of positives to take out of this from Scotland. France got the positives in the first half, and then ultimately I think Galtier will be delighted because he's seen some positives, but it's just proven how right he is, because he is so consistent with his selection.
Yeah,
it's almost like either injury or retirement, like Vakatawa or Leroux. Is the only route to get other kind of new blood into the squad, because Galtier 100% knows he's right, and this has just proven just how right he is, because ultimately, even though there's some positives, his team lost, and whatever French team is selected by Galtier, it should not lose to Scotland.
No, it probably shouldn't. And looking at the players...
In his mind, so that is not my view, that is Galtier's view.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the French team, and it's packed full of talent. I think this actual team stays together for any length of time. These personnel will they could win. They could win the Six Nations. That's how much talent that they have.
Mm-hmm.
They're just monsters.
They won't get chance because of Galtier loves his. This will be the kind of team that will go away and kind of be victorious, or have put in a very good effort in a 3-game series in New Zealand or South Africa or Australia, as the French reserve did last summer in Australia.
Well, the guys I see sticking about would be Hooker.
Buggerit.
Yeah, Buggerit. I think Bedant offers something which...
The number 6.
Yep. And the winger, Billy Beret, or however you say his name.
Biel Beret.
Biel Beret. I need to get used to saying that name because I have a feeling we're going to have to be saying it for a long time.
But Dumortier
I like him.
Might be starting.
Well,
Woki is just because Woki missed the Six Nations.
Love Woki.
So he's coming back into it. Makalu I think he will be part of the French 23.
Because he plays in different...
Because he's so versatile. And because he's such a good player anyway. But because he's versatile, he's such a useful player to have.
Yeah, on Dumortier, he has shades of Pinot about him.
Yes, he does.
Yep.
Definitely.
Scotland, I tend to agree with your analysis that they look dangerous all of a sudden.
They had more to lose out of that game, so the second half was massively important for them because they put all their eggs in that, right, we're going first choice, we're at home, we're against the French second, third position, third choice in many of the positions. If they'd lost that, then suddenly that first game against South Africa feels a mountain that's a little bit tougher to climb.
I don't know why I feel this about Scotland, but I feel come Six Nations, they're a dangerous team to play against. They sort of get their act together and think, oh, they can score a bit, and then they go away on their summer tour and they get battered by someone. And they have the autumns and it just doesn't seem to go well against big teams. What I like about this is that you've got a France team here who must be quite good because they managed to rack up 21 points in...
And they've got some serious talent, as you said before.
Yeah.
Serious talent.
So they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
But then for Scotland to go and stop them scoring completely and overhaul a 21-point lead, that's...
With a red card for the last half an hour as well.
Yeah, can I make a quick point on that red card? Definitely a red. It was the correct decision based on what happened on the field. But I do have an issue with Ben O'Keefe because that red card. So Xander Fagerson came in and made the illegal clear out, which deserved the red card. Let me be clear on that. After quite a few seconds of that ruck, it had already formed, been established, and it was still going. It wasn't happening. And then Xander Fagerson, who was stood out waiting for the ball, I think, then ran in and cleared him out illegally. Buggerit was stood holding the ball. So had Ben O'Keefe thought Buggerit's legal, in which case penalty France.
Yeah, or
Buggerit's not legal, get your hands off the ball. Either way, Xander Fagerson doesn't come and fly in. And the issue I have is Xander Fagerson, the sanction for this is, I think, minimum 6 weeks. Xander Fagerson has previous... So he may not be given much mitigation, which means he may end up with a 4-game ban, which means he misses that South Africa game first one in Pool C.
Such a key player as well.
He's such a key player, and so I'm not excusing the Xander Fagerson. He'll have brought it on himself ultimately, but this is one of those situations where I think the referee is as much to blame for the red card as Xander Fagerson.
I tend to agree. And there is another issue I have with Ben O'Keefe, which is the tackle. I think it was Kuyu, the number 9, on his opposite number, Ben White, in the first half, which led to Ben White going off injured. Now I think that should be a yellow card.
I think it's a penalty. I was happy with it.
Well, it has at least meets the threshold. It's a swinging arm to the head. Now, I think it probably meets the threshold for a red card, but then could be downgraded to a yellow card. But the reason that's the application of the laws, and I don't really care if you soften the laws or make the laws harder. But we will see. Hear me now, believe me later. We will see a similar swinging arm to the head, with or without mitigation, in the World Cup that will result in a red card.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
And a potentially be game deciding of high profile, and it's the inconsistency. Like I don't make it a yellow card, make it a red card, make it a penalty. Be consistent, and that just was. I thought it was totally inconsistent, and with the bit that I'm not the biggest fan of the upgrading yellow cards to red cards, but it takes some pressure off the referee. They don't need to decide on the pitch. Oh, is this a red card? Is it a yellow? Just give it a yellow and move on.
Yeah.
And then, unless it's a clear red, just give it a yellow and move on, because it will. The correct decision within the framework should happen, and it's not on your toes.
Yeah.
I thought he kind of bottled that one.
Yeah.
It's the consistency thing. We will see. I bet I'm going to find a little clip of that, and at some point during the World Cup, we will see a similar shot that is given as a red card.
That will happen. That will 100% happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just making the point that I'm happy.
Yeah.
Penalty, move on. Okay, so Ireland played Italy. I didn't see it. Did you see it?
I saw little bits of it live, and I saw the highlights. Fairly routine win for Ireland. Are the kind of team who they never really do any more than they need to. They will almost always score just the 4 tries, and then they got five here with the Caelan Doris's second try coming with a few minutes to go when the game was long and gone. But they'll just do enough. They blooded a few players, which was interesting. Great to see my boy, young Ulsterman Tom Stewart, get a shot off the bench.
And Cubed back in the Crichton, back in the green again.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Although I do have to say, Stocker's the missed tackle for the first Italy try, Lorenzo Pani's try, was, to me, that is the kind of missed tackle that might keep him out of the World Cup.
Yeah.
It was a
Sticks in the mind.
dreadful attempt at a try-saving tackle. A dreadful attempt. He just needs to go low and hit him hard, and he goes in half-hearted, up high, and gets fended by a winger who is probably 10 kg lighter than him.
Embarrassing.
It's the kind of thing that Farrell. That is the kind of thing that will stick in his mind.
Yeah, good.
I'll name a few players from the Ireland game. Joe McCarthy, second row, like him a lot. I think he's taken Kieran Treadwell's spot in the squad, and he will go, and he looks a proper player. Liked him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I like the look of Jack Crowley. He looked very calm and composed. Like you say, Ireland didn't really have to do anything. Caelan Doris is ridiculous. First game at international level wearing 7, and he was jackling like a world class 7. He didn't look like a number 8. If you just watched that game and you'd never seen Caelan Doris before, you would think he's always been playing open side. And he was.
So I always think of Caelan Doris as an open side that plays 8. Actually,
I actually think of him as an 8 who plays 6.
Oh, really?
Normal position, because he played 6 quite a lot with Conan at 8, because Conan is a bigger bloke.
Yeah.
Basically, he
plays
can do
everywhere.
it all. You probably put him at 12, and he'd look like, he's a pretty competent 12.
Oh, he jackals well at 12.
Yeah,
he's an incredible rugby player, and he was amazing. And the other thing is, to your point about Ireland, they always kind of just do enough and stuff. It was actually at the point where I'm convinced Andy Farrell was deliberately throwing curveballs at his team. That they talk about creating chaos and see how they deal with it. That's very much a Stuart Lancaster thing, isn't it? A Leinster.
It's one of these trendy coaching things, isn't it?
Yep.
We create chaos, and
there was
Mike Ford used to say it.
There was times in the last 20 minutes where I was going, I don't know what position some of these players are playing.
Yeah, I don't. I know. Yeah, I know what the theory is. Kind of that they try to do. Everyone should be able to play everywhere at all times and do everything, and create absolute chaos. So the opposition doesn't. It just doesn't stack up, though, does it? Really, it just doesn't make any sense. Because if it was true chaos, you can't play rugby in true chaos. Like you can't. You have to be
not true chaos.
I know, but I just hate the language.
Chaos.
It's like, I guess all arguments eventually devolve into an argument about language.
I use that language, and Stuart Lancaster has in the past with.
And you're not the only one. Mike Ford was all like that. And, I love Mike Ford as a coach. So.
But like Kieran Frawley came on, and I couldn't tell which one of him and Jack Crowley was 10 and who was 15 because they were swapping, changing all the time. And I guess to dovetail this, going back to England, when we talked about their kind of second string players being a big drop off for And about cohesion, they've been in camp for a month. I don't understand it. Some of them can't even catch a ball or look like they've met each other. Look like they've just
Which
met.
camp have you been to?
Whereas Ireland's second and third choices were able to play a form of total rugby where everyone knew the system so well, it didn't matter what number was on their back, what position they were in. They all just did it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
It is a good point. I do wonder about the England players. Are they allowed? I wonder what the training split is like. How many reps they get? Are they just playing defence? If you're not the first, I'd love to know.
It's something is going on at that England training that it might pay dividends at the World Cup, but based on what we've seen so far,
Not so much.
in the Six Nations and the this subsequent game, not so much. That Ireland back row is massive as well.
Yeah.
Ryan Baird he's 6'6", lock slash.
He's such a...
Well, he
back
is a
row.
lock, right?
He's a lock slash back row. He's like a Courtney Laws type player,
Yeah.
or a Scott Fardy type player.
But he's so explosive and fast.
Yeah, he's faster than those two. But then Jack Conan and Caelan Doris are both 6'4", and Caelan Doris is the lighter of the two men. So you've got 6'6", 6'4", 6'4".
Yeah, okay.
As fairly handy option, and they can all jump in the line out.
They've all got great
and they can
hands,
all lift.
good rugby brains.
Yeah.
Perfect for a quarter final.
And Jack Conan, when he was wearing a Lions shirt, and he does this as well for Leinster and Ireland, but when he was wearing a Lions shirt, they were often using him in that kind of outside the 13 channel.
You know, I've just got it in the back of my head now. I've just got this horrible nagging feeling. Ireland will win the World Cup. I hate that feeling.
I think they will not win the World Cup.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right.
I really, really rate this Ireland team. I really rate what Farrell has done with this team, and the way that they've brought in some of the young talent, I think is an exceptional team. I do not think they will win the World Cup though.
If it can't be England, and I don't think it will be England, then I'd love to see a new winner of the Rugby World Cup.
France.
Yeah,
that's France or Ireland. That's France or Ireland, isn't it? And I think they'd both be worthy.
I think you're right. I don't, even though I do love the way that New Zealand team plays, I don't want them to win because it's got to be someone new. Ireland or France for me.
South Africa or France for me.
South Africa.
I'd love South Africa to win it in like the horriblest way possible.
I'd love South Africa to win it as long as Rassie Erasmus is kind of true to his word and goes on a 60-minute rant about all the refereeing decisions against them.
I want to hear a press conference with Rassie just reminding everyone why he's a World Cup champion twice over. just handing it to everybody. I told you I was right. I knew I was right. We are humble.
I can only fantasize about England winning a World Cup. Being an England fan, that'd be great.
Oh,
but
sorry.
To be able to do a podcast with JB after England winning the World Cup would be.
I'd love England to win the World Cup. And I really don't. Want
I know. I would. I probably wouldn't do this myself, but I would ask our wonderful listeners to just go through the podcast and get the best clips of JB talking down England in recent months and play them out in the podcast.
I actually think England fans should want England to fail, right? Because.
But I want Borthwick to succeed. This is I agree with you on the RFU point. The RFU have
got to be disbanded, right? And what's going to happen, and it'll be a tragedy for English rugby, is if this group of players does well. And people don't believe me that I want this group of players to do well. I really do, because these are the players that I watch week in, week out. I care that they do well. I'm invested in their careers. I like it. I like England. I really do. But if they were to win this, it would justify all of the nonsense that the RFU have put forward, and they need to go.
Bad thing. Yeah, that is a bad thing.
Yeah, and they'll be able to continue with the nonsense, and they'll be able to continue to trash the sport and bankrupt it both financially and morally. So, in a way, you kind of want England. I'd love for the players to do great, and somehow for the RFU to disband and Bill Sweeney and co be locked up in cells. But
here.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Here. Shall we break there? We're going to podcast again tomorrow night.
Yes.
And we can. By that point, you can have caught up on Argentina, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, which happened at very unsociable hours.
And the CrossFit Games.
And the CrossFit Games.
Have you watched any of the games?
All I will say on the CrossFit Games is they always do this. They always mess up the first event.
Oh, I completely agree. I completely
Right,
agree.
You get new people coming in to watch, going, "Oh, right, okay, let's check out this CrossFit Games." And I talked about this on a podcast last year. I think it was last year's or whenever the
Kayaking.
Yeah, no, I think last year's first event was one where, or maybe 2 years ago, they had cycling and then some stuff in the arena, which meant they were doing pull-ups. To the point being where the very first thing I saw.
Yes, I know exactly what you're going to say now.
People doing pull-ups with cycling helmets on. It just does not look like a serious sport.
It doesn't. You're absolutely right. So I came to the conclusion.
So at least they stuck with cycling alone on this one, but that's all it was just cycling.
So I came to the conclusion today that the CrossFit Games is about being good enough at CrossFit to overcome the random result of the first event. So that's what you got to do. So if it's just CrossFit, the best person at CrossFit would win the CrossFit Games. But because of this random event at the start, you get top people coming last and like brand new people who happen to cycle when they were 12, doing really well. They're complete randomers topping the table and wearing the red and white. So yeah, that's the idea of the CrossFit Games. It's about being good enough to not be good at the first event.
Yeah, although I do like the kind of the all-round athlete aspect of it. Because like you should be good at to be a good athlete.
Yeah, that's fair, but you shouldn't do that. Because when people think of CrossFit, they think of movements that involve Olympic lifting, repeated high-intensity work, pull-ups, things like that. Just going, I'll watch it, and it's like a really, really bog-standard crap version of the Tour de France.
Yeah, well, hang on. Also, right, you can't have something like cycling any more than you can have anything else which requires you to upkeep your kit. Because if you look at a cycling team, they have mechanics, they have engineers, they have the bikes fitted to their exact tolerances. Like, this is nonsense.
That is a fair point. Like the cycling kit for, if you just put me on my bike, my gravel bike, against someone on a £15,000 Tour de France standard bike, like the bikes alone would be worth an enormous. But then, as exactly you say, bikes need to be properly fitted. If you're in the wrong aerodynamic position, it will knock kilometres per hour off your speed and put minutes onto your time.
Exactly. Now these guys are all mountain biking; they all have the same bike, but it does matter. These things, it's a sport in its own right, and it's partly a physical sport and it's partly a technical sport. It'd be stupid like to put them in F1 cars. I mean, it'd be amazing actually. But
horse racing.
Horse racing, yeah, brilliant.
Horse racing would be. I mean, it might be quite entertaining.
Pigeon racing. Something pigeon racing.
Well, let's get Neville Southall CrossFitting.
Yes,
and JB's dad.
And JB's dad.
And my dad,
yeah. Although your mum does CrossFit, doesn't she?
She does. Yeah, she's doing really well. Hey, my squat is now in the 95th percentile of all CrossFitters.
Amazing.
There you go.
That is good.
Right. I
will say one more thing just on Ireland very quickly before we go.
Yes.
Their kit isn't nearly as bad as those first pictures looked. I actually quite liked their stash.
Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't immediately throw up when I didn't even notice it as a bad thing when I watched the game, which is a good thing, because when I first saw those pictures, it just looked like they'd used the wrong colour palette.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see the announcement? It's highly related to Ireland kit. It's a couple of weeks ago from Castore, who announced the Leinster kit for next year, and they put a 5th star on it. Did you see the?
No, I have not seen this.
It hastily got taken down.
Oh,
and
wow!
It's there forever though.
But you could actually see that on the subsequent one that got replaced it after it got taken down. They just photoshopped it out of it.
Imagine
the pattern
having
was
that
wrong around it.
Imagine having that conversation. Yeah, we didn't win it. Yeah, we didn't win that game. Oh dear.
So yes, embarrassing.
Isn't it just? Hey, do you want to go now, or have I got time just to play a very, very quick game? A very, very quick game.
Go on.
It's nothing to do with rugby, but I'll round into rugby later.
Very
on.
quick game.
So, today, Tim, and I will direct this at Tim more than Phil because we've already had a chat about it.
Yeah, I've not done this quiz because I've not been able to catch up because I've been showering my wonderful wife with gifts all day.
So,
I thought you were going to end it at showering my wonderful wife.
So
happy birthday, darling.
Well, just actually, I say gifts.
Golden.
Claire is now kind of a woman after my heart. Because
Again, I thought you were just going to end it. Claire is now a woman. Another big statement made by Phil on the pod. No, sorry, go on, carry on, Phil.
Where basically all she wanted to do today was on her birthday do some exercise and have some time for herself. So which is basically what I want to do. Not just on my birthday. It's just all I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's all. That's all she was able to. So I just took the kids. She could do exercise. She could do whatever she wanted. She wanted to go for a massage and do some sewing. So
ideal.
Yeah, crack on. Away you go.
So here's the thing, Tim, right? I have been looking, or I've been thinking about corporate mission statements, because I think, I was thinking of one for Beardmore & Co., independent financial advisors, right? What do we actually do as a business? So I looked up some of the mission statements for the biggest companies in the world, just to see what they were, out of interest. Would you like to guess which company the statement belongs to?
Oh,
so
great
I will do this. There's a couple that I know, but I won't. But I will do this as well for the other ones.
So I'll give you a nice, easy one. Right, this is really, really easy. Okay, organise the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful.
Go on, Tim.
Organise the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful.
So I would say, unless you want to go first, Tim, but I would say Wikipedia.
I would assume it was like
Wikipedia.
So it was like
No.
really obvious, like
It is really obvious.
Google.
It is Google.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Google, right? So I'll
Well,
give
so that's, I
I was
guess
just thinking who combs the most data.
I was going to say that Google, they're too broad, but they're not, because Alphabet are too broad.
yes.
Doesn't that make it sound like, oh, we're doing it for you? We're just.
Well, let's not get into that. Let's not get into that.
We're only arranging all information. We're not harvesting, selling, slicing, dicing.
No, it's accessible, Tim, for everyone.
Yeah.
As the Chinese Communist Party, we are just arranging these thousands and thousands of pictures of you and thousands of bits of information on every single thing that you
safety.
do for your benefit.
To make decisions feel good moments easy for everyone. Sorry, what did I say? Sorry. To make delicious feel-good moments... Sorry. To make delicious feel-good moments easy for everyone.
I want to say someone like McDonald's,
Tim?
which is not. But
It can't be McDonald's.
It is McDonald's.
Is it McDonald's?
Yeah, it is McDonald's. To bring inspiration...
Let's just feel good moments easy for everyone.
I think that's a great one. I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
And I am a fan of McDonald's
I'm a
as a
huge
brand.
fan.
Like, I think they're very, and particularly now with kids. Here's what. So we were out for food last night. We were in a hotel that we stayed in last night. Nowhere fancy, just in Preston. We had kids got a cheese toastie and fish and chips.
Yeah.
We got a burger each.
Yeah.
With chips. We had some olives to start, and we got one glass of wine each. 95 quid.
McDonald's.
If we got to McDonald's, it would have been about
Holy
8
shit.
minus the wine. We just get a bottle
And
of
you'd have
wine.
your nutritional information.
Yeah, 95 quid for that. Like McDonald's, it would have been about minus the wine. It would have been about 18 quid for the same amount of food.
Exactly.
Probably not even that.
Yeah.
To inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, one neighbourhood at a time.
Starbucks.
Correct, Tim.
Ah, very good.
Right. So here's my absolute favourite, and I'll bring this to an end now, right? This is my favourite, okay? This is from Barclays.
Well, actually, before Barclays, give the HSBC one.
Yeah,
'cause
okay.
HSBC is good.
So why I like some of these mission statements is because they're clear about what the company does, right? And they can refer back to it. So HSBC is to be the world's leading international bank,
Clear.
right?
Be the best. Not the best at money laundering for Mexican cartels.
Yeah.
Not the best in Canary Wharf, the best in the world.
In the world. They want to be world's leading international bank. I think that's a cool mission statement.
Yeah.
Barclays. Just let me find it. I absolutely love it. I love the Barclays one. Barclays is, wait for it, to help people achieve their ambitions. That sounds all right,
That's good.
doesn't it, Tim?
Yeah, I just searched. When you said Barclays, I just looked and they said what their purpose is. I don't know if it's their mission statement, though.
So to help people achieve their ambitions, hang on, wait for it. There's an extra bit which I forgot to mention. Dash in the right way, as if that needs to be said. I love the idea that they've obviously done something horrifically wrong in the past, haven't they?
The implication is not those ambitions.
Not
the ones we helped those people with.
I think it's astonishing that is even on the website.
Yeah.
It's not even one sentence. It's an afterthought. An afterthought is in the right way. Why mention it? Isn't it implicit? You're a bank. Of course you're going to do it in the right way. Our mission is to save people's money, without stealing it. Oh.
Very good.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw this out to listeners. I think I want emails for the RFU's mission statement. What should the RFU's mission statement be, bearing in mind what it's already achieved?
The bad stuff they've achieved over the last few years.
Just send me your mission statements, and I might send you a tie or an egg or some sort of EggChasers memorabilia if you make me laugh enough.
Grinding the game into dust.
Yes, excellent. I thought for Beardmore and Co. something along the lines of. I can't find it now. Never mind. I'll tell you next week.
Very good.
Right.
Or tomorrow night.
Yes, we will hopefully see. Well, we will
England squad breakdown.
see you tomorrow for the England squad breakdown and anything we've missed tonight.
Yes. So Australia and.